Daniel Lee Hart, Los Angeles Police Department. Van Nuys, DUI, Robert Smith.
I will be the witness.
I will be defense attorney number 2, Mr. Sagan.
I will be defense attorney number 1, Mr. Polito.
And I will be the plaintiff attorney, Mr. Schneider. And I will begin this dictation with a question. Ready? Good morning, officer. I appreciate your joining us today. Have you ever had your deposition taken before?
Yes, I have.
On how many occasions?
Approximately 20.
Can you think of any reason at all why it would be necessary for me to tell you what a deposition is about?
No.
Would you state your full name for the record, sir?
Daniel Lee Hart, H-A-R-T.
And you are an officer with the Los Angeles Police Department?
That's correct.
And what is your badge number?
6679. I think you'll want my serial number, 20410.
Thank you. How long have you been with the Los Angeles Police Department?
A little over 22 years.
And how long have you been involved in accident analysis?
I'll object just to clarify what you mean by accident analysis.
You can answer the question if you understand it.
I've been assigned to Valley Traffic Division since October of '85.
Were you involved in traffic divisions before that?
Not in a traffic division, but as a patrol officer, you handled the traffic.
I'm going to show you a copy of a report. You folks want copies?
Just so I can see. Yes, I would like a copy. It looks the same.
Do you have a copy of it?
If it's DR number 921033700, I do.
Is that a copy that you obtained from some source?
Yes.
What source was that?
I called downtown to the Records and Identification Unit and ordered it.
Is the document that you obtained, is that from microfiche?
I don't know.
Is that the same as we have here, which we'll mark as Exhibit A?
Yes, it is.
And is this a report that you prepared?
Yes.
Is this report, other than the signature of the supervisor, entirely in your handwriting?
Yes.
This is an accident from quite a while ago, in fact, it's about 3.5 years ago. Do you have any recollection of the incident?
Not independent of the report.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the report prior to arriving here today?
Yes, I did. I glanced at it.
Did that refresh your recollection as to that incident at all?
Not at all.
I just have some questions concerning the report. If you'd look at the first page, at the bottom it says Hart D. That's you?
Yes.
And then it says Division Detail. What is that?
That's my unit designation. On that day I was assigned 10 TL35. The L indicates that I was a one-man unit. The T indicates that I'm a traffic unit. The 10 indicates what quadrant of the valley that I would normally be in. Although we're not, we are a Valley Bureau unit, and we get assigned calls all over the whole valley. So it's just a unit designation is all it is.
Are you officed in Van Nuys?
We work out of Van Nuys Station, but I'm assigned Valley Traffic Division, which is a separate bureau within that actual Van Nuys building.
You've said in this 10 TL35, you explained what the 10 is, the T, and the 35. Is there a meaning to the L?
Yes, I've already explained that the L indicates that I was a one-man unit.
I'm sorry, I thought that was the 35.
No, the 35 indicates that's just a designation unit for whatever car I may be working. If there was another car working that area, and it was on this watch, it would either be 37 or 33 at the end. Odd numbers indicating the normal 3 watches, and even numbers indicating mid-watches.
There's a signature on the bottom line there. Do you know whose signature that is?
I can't read the signature. It would have been a supervisor that was working that day.
You don't recognize it?
No.
I would like you to take a look at the second page, if you will, toward the upper left corner. It's indicated primary collision factor, and it appears to me to say VC 21658A. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And that refers to a vehicle code section, correct?
Yes, it does.
And is that a determination that you made as to a violation of that code section being a primary collision factor?
I'll object to the form of the question.
Go ahead and answer.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Can you tell from this report how you came to that conclusion?
Just based on the report, it would be the fact that the bicyclist, based on my traffic collision summary on the front, was negotiating a change from the bicycle lane over into the number 1 lane, which would be closest to the center divider, and there was a collision. So obviously it was done unsafely.
Why do you say that was obvious?
Well, because if there was no collision, then it would have been done safely. It was unsafe because there was a collision, obviously. It wasn't safe if there was a collision.
Can you tell from this report which of the parties, in your view, had violated that code section?
Same objection, calls for improper foundation.
Based on the report, it's vehicle 2, which would be the bicyclist.
Did you take any measurements at the scene?
Nope.
Is it your practice to do so in certain situations?
I'll object. It's overbroad.
In some situations.
And how do you make that determination as to when you're going to take measurements and when you're not?
It depends on whether it's a Class 1 or Class 2 report, and it depends on the severity of the injuries.
What is a Class 1 report?
Class 1 report, which has changed, and I'm estimating the change is after 92. Class 1 report would be an incapacitating injury, and that refers to a broken arm, broken leg, or something of that nature. A hit-and-run felony, DUI, an unbooked DUI, a traffic felony, anything of educational value with unusual circumstances. And I believe that was the policy in 92, but it's changed since then.
Is the form of the report different?
Yes, it is.
And would it be fair to say that a Class 2 report would have been anything other than a Class 1 report?
Yes.
And which type of report would the report in front of you be?
This is marked up in the upper left-hand corner of the first sheet. It's Class 2.
And why is this particular report? Are you the person who makes a decision as to whether you're going to complete a Class 1 or Class 2 report?
That's a matter of department policy. It's a matter of my investigation at the time that determines what kind of report it's going to be, the criteria, whether or not the accident fits the criteria for the policy.
You filled out a Class 2 report here?
Yes.
Did someone tell you to fill out a Class 2 rather than a Class 1 report?
No.
So would it be fair to say that you evaluated the standards and determined that a Class 2 report was appropriate in this instance?
Based on my investigation, a Class 2 was appropriate at this time. That's why I made it a Class 2.
And which factors, if you can tell, led you to prepare a Class 2 rather than a Class 1 report?
Well, as I said before, based on the injuries, which at the time of my investigation on a follow-up, either to a hospital or wherever, the type of injuries would have determined at this point whether to make it a Class 1 or 2. Since there was no police vehicle involved, no city liability involved, there's other criteria. There's a whole list of criteria that depends on the traffic scene at this particular report was based on the injuries that I received at the time of my investigation.
Can you tell from this report who at the scene you spoke to?
I'll object to the form of the question. It assumes lacks foundation. It assumes he spoke to someone. It doesn't indicate that.
Go ahead and answer that.
Please.
It doesn't indicate, but I have Party 1's information up there in the report. So at one point I've talked to a Robert Smith, and then at another point I made a follow-up based on the injuries to a hospital, which indicates that Party 2 was transported. So at that point I would have come in contact with Party 2.
You have Party 2's address there. Does that suggest to you that you spoke to Party 2?
Same objection.
It may or may not based on the fact of whether I got that address from the hospital record or I went in and actually talked to the person.
By the way, as he makes objections, it's not a matter of our ignoring them, but for purposes of a deposition, because he's not representing you, nor am I, or anyone here. That's why you're answering the questions. If we ever get to a trial, the judge would make a determination as to whether his objections are good objections